Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pinpointe Unfiltered. I'm Rachel.
And it's your boy, Josh, the realtor of realtors. What's going on, guys? Today we have a wonderful guest, illustrious, very inspiring. I just got a little kind of tidbit earlier. I just met you a few minutes ago. Madeline, welcome to the show. Welcome to the podcast. I don't know what we even call this. Welcome to our world.
Welcome
Thank
to
you.
hanging out with us.
Thank you so much.
Do you want to give us a little rundown of who you are, what you do, how we met?
Oh, I believe I found you using AI technology as one of the rock stars in your area. And I was so glad that you took my call, and that we connected. And really, I mean, because we have a sort of a common mission, if you will, in property management and always looking for a competitive edge. And my company is Tenant Guided Tours Plus Access. We're taking property management keyless using smart locks. We're making them affordable, financing them. And so rental owners are now able to get smart locks with no upfront costs, and showings are automated using smart locks as well. And all access is automated because I think keys are really slowing a lot of property management
Mm-hmm.
teams down, and there's a lot of blind spots. Our software does include the use camera integration that will help sort of cover our blind spots when properties are vacant, and during showings as well, to make sure that the people that are showing up for showings are the same person that we've ID'd to be there. Just making it so property managers can go faster, reduce overhead, and scale faster without hiring more people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Nice,
And
nice.
you're out of Denver, right?
Denver, yep, Denver, Colorado.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you started originally as an agent and then started investing in properties. Is that correct?
That's correct. I started in real estate school while I was still in high school.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I was
That's
getting my my real estate license when I was getting just out of high school. So I started as a traditional agent, just doing sales, and then I learned that all the folks in real estate that were making money were the ones that were investing, and so I bought my first investment property less than 3 years after getting into real estate, and then, started managing my own portfolio. Um, I had about a I had about 12 rental properties by about 2008, and,
so
um
hold on one second. Can I just I just want to get these numbers right. So you said you hadn't finished high school yet when you started real estate. And 3 years into it, you had investment properties. So what are we you're 18 coming out of high school, right? So by 21, this young woman, how many investment properties?
I had at least a dozen by 2008. Thank you. I think
That's
a lot of
awesome.
that was inspired by, figuring out pretty early on that I just really couldn't be stuck in an office all day. I tried some corporate positions that were sort of just, a role in a bigger picture, and I figured out that there's no way that was going to be the rest of my life. And so I figured that out earlier on, and I think part of the inspiration was maybe not growing up with a silver spoon and
Mhm.
having to figure out a lot of things earlier, and building resilience early, and I think that has, become a superpower for me later on in life, because I'm not afraid of risk, and, um, I've got a lot to prove, I guess. I don't know, but today, what I'm hoping to do, and Rachel shared with me prior about the what you have to go through renting properties, just getting access in New York. And I was complaining about what we had to go through in Denver and for my other out of state properties. I don't have anything in New York, but after
Not
I
yet.
heard that, there's just, it's controlled chaos. It seems like
Yeah.
getting access there and navigating all of that. And if you're not experienced like you guys are in your market, newbie's not gonna be able to help you. They're not gonna know how to help you get around that and get the edges,
No.
even get your hat in on a
No,
property.
I mean, we've worked with a lot of newbies. I mean, at one point I was a newbie and, um, you know, I had to be I mean, I'm not like everybody. I usually try to figure things out myself first, but, um, yeah, it's really hard. You have to it's like pulling teeth, even to get the keys from the landlords who want you to rent their apartments. It's ridiculous. There's landlords here that will ask for cash. There's one that asked for $20 cash
For
to
keys?
get keys.
Yeah,
They'll give it
Well,
back to you if you bring back the keys. But if you don't bring back the keys, they keep that 20 bucks.
but they don't know if somebody made a copy.
No, they don't know if you made a copy. But but they check your ID, they hold your ID, they hold the cash. It's a little bit crazy. So, I wanted to ask you if your experience as an agent and then as an investor is what led you to start tenant guided tours, like because you saw firsthand the gap in the industry.
Yeah,
Is
I've been thinking about it for a long time, just the, with showings and the other bottleneck issues, and watching the world around me and technology go almost all the way to automation. And it seems like property management and real estate technology kind of just slept while all of that was moving. And so, I just saw that there was a huge gap to fill there, and leasing a lot of my own properties, and stabilizing multifamily properties out of state. One of the hardest things, as you know, is right when you purchase a property, is getting access to everything. If I've got, if I purchase, so many doors, I mean, I've gotta be able to get people in there to, do rehab where needed, things like that. So it seems like there's a lot of delay in just getting access, just rekeying. And
Mhm.
so I think that, that's gonna solve a big problem too. And then showing up to closings. So with a duffel bag full of keys. I mean,
Sorry, that's happened to you?
I don't wanna I'm not it. Yeah, right
There's a
there.
bag full
Right
of
there.
keys right there.
Right there.
there's a bag. I have a desk full. We have a lockbox full of,
Yeah, how
a bunch more
humiliating, right? If
keys.
your buyer never closed and you had to drag the duffel bag back out to your car
Oh my
to
god. Oh my god.
to purchase.
That's
And
terrible.
then a lot
That's
of
a walk of
times,
shame right there.
right? And so in a lot of cases, you find out later on that the half the keys don't work anyway. And so that'll kind of help being able to transfer properties with a click of a button. Also at escrow, when somebody's buying a bunch of properties, they're going to be able to get in there and get to work right away on what they need to do to stabilize the properties.
Nice.
Have you tried at all pitching your product to New York City landlords or brokers? Because I think it would be a godsend.
Yeah. Um, we're working on rolling out territories, if you will, of folks that will be responsible for onboarding, customer service, sales in specific areas to make sure that everybody's getting the attention they deserve, individually as we roll out. Because every area, every state is different. The concept of what we're doing is the same, but the way that New York is doing things is different than the way that Denver is doing things. And so I think, we're going to have to make sure it's not going to be a one size fits all, I think exactly. And we'll need, but I think all the way around, it's going to be better for property owners because their properties are going to lease faster. if you can get more people in there, they can lease faster. If there's going to be less labor hours required by leasing agents and property management teams, maybe some of that savings might go to tenants. Maybe some of that savings might go to property owners and
Mhm.
end up actually being in the public's best interest to automate access and have equal access without some of the inefficiencies of the human touch in that process.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I live in a building that actually has smart locks, and I've toured as an agent. Buildings with smart locks, they still have leasing agents, and they are still doing the showings. Or if you're a broker going to show, they'll just give you the codes.
Hmm.
Um, so I don't think that's really saving any time. And I don't know if it's specific to the smart lock systems that they're using, because I don't think it is, right? Anybody could get access to it if you give them access.
Hmm.
Um, but it's just it seems to me like and Josh, you can jump in here at any point. Like I think with New York real estate specifically, they're so slow to adopt technology that even when they do, they just half-ass it.
Hmm. That's most of I think most of property management, I'll be
Mm.
honest, is and maybe for me to some degree, I mean, even when I get a new cell phone, I dread it because I know there's gonna be a little adjustment period there where I'm just gonna have to, there's gonna be some buttons in different places and but that lasts about a day and then, and then we're acclimated again. And so I think there's going to be some of that. I think a lot of people, especially the larger teams, are afraid of change and maybe having to slow down a little bit before they can go forward again. But sometimes it's a worthy investment. Especially when, another thing is as a property manager, we, as the licensed property manager or property management team, we are vicariously liable if we're leaving a door open. And I mean, that's just how things are done. The property owner doesn't care if that's just how things are done. If their furnace grows legs, they're looking at the property manager because you had the keys. You're the one that gave out the access. And they're not gonna feel obligated to replace that furnace without getting reimbursed by somebody. And not only that, I mean, we have squatters, and so if somebody goes into a property and they trash it overnight, because they came to see it the day before, they weren't approved, so they were upset, so they come back.
No.
I have stories of, even looking at, some of the showings competitors of people saying that they were so upset that they had leased a property while they were there. They got a notice saying, "Sorry, the property's been leased." And right there on their review forum, people saying, "You're lucky we didn't destroy your house because we were upset." So
Wow,
I think,
that's
this could be a quickly with somebody like that, if they want to start destroying fixtures and plumbing and ripping out electrical and those things. I mean, with 30 minutes of, how much damage can somebody do in 30 minutes?
quite a bit, quite a bit. I guess I'm an advocate a bit. I do a lot of showing. So I'm boots on the ground, real
Yep.
time, like let's troubleshoot some of this stuff. I see where some of the flaws are. I like the fact that, hey, if I have internet access and I have my phone, I can get into certain buildings, I can get into certain apartments. That's amazing. Um but like everything else, what happens when the technology starts to fail a bit or it needs to be troubleshoot, whatever. Recently we went on a showing where they had self tours, right? And I get
Which
into the building.
company?
No,
Do you
I
remember
get
which company?
I think it's called walk through tours, self tour plus, something like
Oh,
that.
Something like that.
I think it's like self tour plus. Um, I get into the building, no problem, but with the location where the building is, put, it's not the best self-service.
mhm,
So once I try to get into the apartment, now I'm in this building. Yeah, I can't get into the apartment because now the locks are not working.
mhm,
If it's after 5 o'clock, weekends, you can't get anyone on the line. Um, those things are problems, but sometimes, like you said, keys don't work. There's been plenty of, instances where we make copies of keys and we think we're fine. And, we're here, key in hand, clients at the door waiting, and we can't get in. And, we kind of look like a fool for a second. So yes, the automation it's gonna be great, but I don't think it's gonna take away from some of the old school methods because
Right.
we still need to have some of these things like in place where at least a super or someone like an
Yeah, like as
actual
a
person,
fail-safe.
like a self fail safe, exactly right. So yeah, I feel there's room for all of it, as long as the people like yourself who are creating it kind of do the due diligence and kind of get
Mhm,
the feedback from, the people like us who are on the
mhm.
ground, like, hey, this is how, your product is really like used and its functionality like in real time. Um, but I'm all for it. Like
Mhm.
Rachel is the tech person of the group. I'm
Yes.
like a boomer where I type like this.
We literally were on FaceTime yesterday so that I can walk him through how to use a website.
Shut up. I'm good with people, okay?
And
No, but I
that's one
think,
of the
like,
things that we're sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, like, I think that, having these, um, more sophisticated lock systems with technology is a good thing, especially for us in New York, but definitely nationwide. But, like, here in New York, we have, you know, master keys, right, for, let's say, the front door if they're not on, a fob system or something like that, right? So, um, sometimes those don't work. And then you're just sitting there, with a client, you're standing there waiting, you're trying to buzz random neighbors to see if they'll let you in, or
Five
just
fingers
standing
on
there.
the doorbells.
Yeah, just hit them all. Um, or you're waiting for somebody to
Mhm.
come or go, and then hoping that the apartment's unlocked, right? Um,
With our
it's
software, you can tell, um, you can look at the battery life
Mhm,
of your locks. You
mhm.
can review the access logs so you know who was there what time. So more than showings, also, if we have a vendor going to make a repair, they get a one-time code. We're able to verify what time they got there, what time they left, what time they left. Maybe the honor system has some faults.
Yeah.
And so, but we're able to verify that. And as property managers, we're able to actually control access, know
Yeah, and
who was
limit
there, what
liability too,
time.
right?
And for showings, it's a little bit different in New York. Well, a lot different in New York in that most of your housing is attached, meaning, it's all condos. It's all, New York has one park.
We have many
We have
parks.
a lot of
We
parks.
have many parks.
Well,
We
Just
just
the
have the
city.
park.
The city, I saw one when I went there, and it was a
Oh, we
beautiful
have a
park.
lot
There's
Um,
green here. I know what it looks like. There's a tree.
a tree and a little
in a planter. Mhm.
patch of grass. Um, but so it's different that way because, like you were saying, you do have the outside entrance. And those things for a lot of our packages are including the digital locks as well for back doors. So if the Wi-Fi goes out and if power goes out, they still have another way into the property. And the way with the smart locks that we're using, um, if the power goes out and Wi-Fi, I mean, they operate on battery as a backup anyway. But if Wi-Fi goes out, the power goes out and takes out Wi-Fi, they still have a hard. You can still use a backup code that'll still get them in that case. And the same with the outside doors, and I would think for buildings, when they're factoring the cost of having somebody man the doors and what that adds up to over a year to have somebody full time, maybe there's some room for upgrades, there's some savings and some more money,
You're
and
coming for doormen.
No
yes,
one's safe.
they're next.
Nobody wants to lose their doorman. They pay extra for that. And
Yeah,
it's not about access.
yeah.
No, but honestly, like we've seen it where a lot of new development, the virtual doorman, like
Mhm,
it's you're not specifically coming for doormans. They're like it's the industry itself, the
mhm.
developers. It's just I guess a part of the evolution where these buildings are built to be automated. And people like it.
Yeah,
You
because you
know
also
now,
have, like, the smart package rooms,
yeah,
right? So, like, you aren't gonna need any person per se, unless it's for security, but come on, what are they gonna do? Nothing.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm
They
where I live, it's in a secured community and a secured building. And so it's a challenge, because even though I have my own smart lock on my door, I don't have a lock on the outside door. So if I need to get somebody in, if I'm leaving town or what have you, and I need to get somebody in to check on things, I have to leave them a fob
I see.
the way
Mhm.
that it is now, with how things are set up for me. So it could just create some challenges there when you have, different locks, for sure, or a different outside lock. But there are ways with an outside lock or a common door, where all of the residents would still have their own codes individually to
Mhm.
that door, where you can see who's gone in and out if you needed to. And then they could also issue one-time passcodes for everybody else at the same time. So
So
they don't even have anybody coming in. And I understand about wanting to have a door, person. 'Cause they probably do. They do a lot of other things.
yeah,
Um,
they do, and they're also union workers, so you
oh,
can't really
oh,
get rid of them very easily,
Definitely
yeah.
not getting rid of those
They
guys.
have their own union. Rara's gonna be like, "What are you trying to do? Get rid of my job?"
right.
Yeah, my best
Um,
friend is a doorman.
No.
He might skip this episode. No.
um, no, so there was one that I was just thinking about when you were talking about, giving out a code to a specific person, like, let's say, a dog walker or a person visiting. Um, you copy that easily? Like, because with my prior apartments that have had fobs, I've gone to a locksmith and copied a fob, and I've copied keys that you're not supposed to make copies of,
Yeah.
right? Um, so even though you're not supposed to be able to do those things, you're still able to do them. Is with the smart locks like yours, does that limit the ability of being able to copy or give access to things like that?
Yeah, I mean, and we have the camera integration
Mhm,
as well. So when somebody's, if they're there after hours, or they're there during showings, it'll be up to the property management teams to have somebody monitor access, who's, sort of coming in and out. At least a quick glance at the camera to make sure
mhm.
it's the same person. And so I think the cameras are really, I mean, that's gonna be a game changer and pretty much cover a lot of our blind spots there and help with the security. But as far as somebody else getting the code, long-term tenants or permanent tenants are given their own code for the duration of their lease.
Okay,
And that's unique to them. And if the tenants would like to give a one-time passcode to their own guests, they have that ability also.
Nice.
So they're not giving them their code or their keys. They can issue a one-time passcode. Somebody's going there to feed their dog from noon to 1 p.m. They can set up a code that's good for that time that will terminate at the end of that appointment.
wow.
Now, on that level, because that's where kind of I was going. I was thinking, it's like, wait, if you have like a dog walker, you have like the nanny or the cleaning lady that comes, often. Could you give them a code? And then I guess if their, employment is terminated, you don't need them anymore. Just all right, we're gonna like
Revoke the
close out
code?
that code and cancel it.
Yeah. Or you
All right,
can
yeah.
maybe just
So
for that day, that if they're scheduled for Fridays, you
Then you
can
can,
set up
like,
their
have it always for
yeah,
that Friday of that time slot? That's
yeah.
crazy.
Mhm.
What happens, though, if they're running late and they come after that window?
If somebody runs late, they'll have to set up another one
Gotcha.
and get a watch.
And Yes.
Listen,
Um,
in New York,
is it
everybody's
only
about 15 to 20 minutes. Are you kidding me? Watch the episode of me ranting about how clients leave me waiting in apartments for,
oh
hours.
my God, hours.
They'll
And then
start.
like an hour past their appointment, they're like, "Oh, I'm 30 minutes away."
"Oh,
Um,
sorry, I just
is
rented
it
it to someone else."
yeah, it would happen that way too.
Yeah.
Is it only codes or can you use like your phone? Like, because people have these days terrible memories. So I don't think I can remember so many codes.
For showings, you'll get, a text to your phone with the code for that time. So
Okay.
they'll have it there, and then they'll also have it in the email for showings. But there's also through, because we're using, I think we're connecting to about 33 different brands right now, and through their APIs. And so when the users were connecting to the APIs for the smart lock companies, the functionality exists there to add other users and do those things, or use the phone through the app to unlock, or even through a smartwatch to lock and unlock doors, that way in person for a tenant or somebody that's going to be there regularly.
Cool. So then, let me see if I understand this. You are working with or connecting with multiple lock companies. So you're not selling a very specific type of hardware and forcing people to use one type of hardware. Oh, that's awesome. That's great because like the ones that I've experienced are just like one system. It's a monolithic
And you have to buy
and
their lock on their
hmm
terms, and yeah,
oh,
you're kind of.
so yeah, yours sounds like a much better deal for property
Mhm,
management and
mhm.
landlords. Because you also said that it's it's financed for them,
Yeah,
correct?
the smart lock packages, that include the, smart locks, we're financing the top rated brands, that
Hmm.
we really feel like that we can stand behind, that are time tested as far as quality. One of our favorites right now is the Schlag Encode, smart lock. And with that one, we are financing that lock specifically because we know that is going to last at least 3, 4, or 5 years based on the data we've been able to gather. And there are a lot of other really good companies. Quickset, that just happens to be our favorite, and it works the best. I would say with our software, all of the locks work the same, but we're impressed with the speed of and the API with Schlag specifically, and they've built a really good lock in terms of withstanding extreme temperatures, and things, and still working even when it's freezing here in Colorado, or there in New York, or when it's really hot. They've done pretty well. And I've heard about some others that, like, when there's, that they're just not holding up as well to weather. So
Yeah, that would
when
be difficult in a
yeah,
place like Denver or here in New York where you have such different temperatures.
yeah. And the same thing, I think, I've faced the same challenge though with lock boxes. I don't know if you've encountered a frozen over lockbox yet,
Yes, I have.
Josh.
Yeah.
but I mean, most of the time, that's when you just give up because
I'm
unless you
I mean,
put
extremely
I've had my
stubborn.
fingers freeze.
I am extremely stubborn, and eventually I just try to use brute force.
your
It
keys
Whack.
it kind of depends if I'm with the client or not, and how
civilized you
embarrassed I
even
want
keep.
to be about this.
Yeah,
But then also it depends on the neighborhood because 6'3" person like looks like me smashing a lockbox
yeah,
Doesn't
probably
look
could get
good.
some of the neighbors worried.
yeah.
So yeah, it's very situational. Sometimes you just gotta like give up and like, all right, whatever, like
Move
fine,
on. Yeah.
move on.
You know what I just remembered? And this is like, I don't know why I thought of it while I'm talking about keys, but there was this one time, Josh, that I think I was showing on 109th, and I think I had like keys. I was showing like back to back showings because it was like, prime summer college students. And I think I needed keys to like one of the buildings, but I didn't have them. So I was just gonna have to like buzz in. And then I saw you across the street and I was like, hey, do you have those keys? And you did. And so I went and let myself in, and then I
Hence
threw you
the
my keys.
reason I like developed having to carry a bag all the time. I am the key master. I have so many. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
It,
you're always jingling on
yes.
keys.
So people ask me for change a lot, and I'm like, no, I kind of could use some change myself. These are just keys. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Um, but no, I like. Listen, I love this idea. I love it being practiced in New York. Things that kind of like I'm like hesitant is like, look, we just need, if you had like 24-hour like customer service for it, like you said, someone, but that
Yeah,
is
no,
on the that's on the landlord because it's
yeah.
like sometimes it's not the technology.
Mhm,
Um, it's on the landlord to have someone monitoring that stuff. But essentially, it is like it helps so much. It saves me time when I don't have to like go from one area to like the other side of town to go pick up some keys, um, and fight traffic and like all that. In New York, 15 minutes could end up costing you like 2 hours at the end of the day, really.
mhm.
It's just that it's that serious. So I absolutely love it. I have cursed out the technology when, it wasn't working. I'm not gonna lie, only because I had clients with me, and you know what? I just want to get in. But that's what I guess any seasoned agent learns how to navigate, these things because these things are going to happen regardless of what the technology is. If it's keys, if it's, eye retinal, whatever, it doesn't matter. Things are going to go wrong and you need to learn how to adapt. So yeah, that's why I don't think this is going to kind of weed out the incompetent brokers because you still need the incompetent brokers.
Well, speaking of brokers, Madeline, when I was on your podcast, we were talking about a law that was gonna be coming into effect, and it has now since come into effect here in New York. It's called the FAIR Act. Yeah. We've talked about it at length on this podcast. Um, but basically, New Yorkers, renters think that brokers, all we do is open doors. We don't do anything else.
And if we have
Um,
this technology, oh
we don't do
Lord,
anything.
we're not doing anything.
We make it look easy.
Right. Um, they'll just reach out to us. We'll give them the code. Bye bye. No. So how do you like? But a lot of our business, whether it's New York or Denver or Florida or anywhere, you know, a lot of our business is based on relationships, and for us, we build a lot of our rapport with our clients on these showings. Um, and I wonder if you think that being able to give tenants access directly. Obviously, that's a choice that the landlord or property management would make, right? But do you think that would change the relationship that clients end up having with brokers?
I mean, that's a good question. In Denver or in Colorado, tenants don't have representation
Hmm.
like they do there. They're sort of on their own here. Nobody represents them, and it's just not even so. No, I mean, you. I don't think I've ever even seen anybody offering a co-op for a lease here ever, unless
Hmm.
you're commercial.
Mhm.
And so that's one big, that's a big difference. I think that tenants, more renters in the Denver area and in Colorado would love to have somebody help them navigate this.
Hmm.
People are losing money to scams. They go on listing sites and they're dealing with that and people that are saying they have properties for lease, but they don't actually own them and trying to collect money from them.
Terrible.
It's just, and so I think I wish that maybe it was set up like that everywhere so that more tenants would have the ability to have somebody actually represent them because it's more, you're doing more than showings. You're
Yes,
doing
we
more than
we
access. It's your expertise, you know your market, you know values, you know what's
Mhm.
negotiable, you know when you can get somebody a better rate or if the listing company or the might have given you some information on a motivating factor that you can use to your advantage. They don't know those things, and those are things that that I don't really know that AI could even replace as far
Right.
as the value that you're
Oh, there's
bringing
a
to folks here.
nuance.
So I wouldn't replace that, at all, but would
Can you get on a soapbox and talk to all New Yorkers?
So doormen, watch out. Brokers, agents, you're safe. It's okay. It's okay. We'll be fine.
oh, I think our door guys are there for, like you said, a lot of other reasons, but at least now maybe they can focus on better service, being more attentive than opening a door. If access is automated, now they can focus on everything else in the building and making the stay there a better experience, maybe. And the
Well, I have no
same,
idea what my doormen are doing because we have automated access and they just sit there. I think some of them watch TV.
Listen,
Oh, no, actually, I
everybody
have a
needs to
story.
catch up on their binge watching somehow, someplace.
So, okay,
I'm
maybe
not
they're
gonna hate
building
on these
software.
guys.
so few nights ago, last week maybe, we have this is a really big building, so there's multiple live-in supers, and they take turns on who's on call after hours. So apparently there was somebody in one of the amenity rooms, like the bowling alley club room, after hours after it was closed. So the door person, the concierge, let's call them that, um, went up to be like, "Hey, you need to leave." And this person wouldn't leave. So the concierge didn't know what to do and they called one of the on-call supers. That your job as a concierge is literally to deal with it.
Yeah.
And they handed it off to the super that was sleeping.
I wonder if they actually give them the authority to physically make
No, but
somebody
you
move,
no,
though.
what they should have done is call the cops.
Yeah. Oh,
That's their job. It's like, okay, you're supposed to be out of here.
yeah, I
If
agree.
you're not gonna get out, my next phone call is to the police, not to
Mhm.
the super. And then the super, he was such a sweetheart. He actually helped her like get all her stuff, was super nice about it. But like one of the other supers that I was talking to, he's like, I would have called the cops
Mhm.
because that is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, why are you waking me up? Because this person won't get out. Like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like I think some concierge are worth their salt and some less so. But maybe if they only have like one thing to focus on, I don't know. But I guess there's, bad apples and everything, right? There's plenty of bad brokers that I
Mhm.
know.
Yeah. But if at least if access is automated for you,
Hmm.
if that part was done where you weren't having to plan 24 hours in advance just to make sure that you had access or more,
Hmm.
how much more would I mean, how many more people can you help?
Are you
How
kidding me?
many
I would
more
have to spend an
people?
hour just trying to get, 7 different agents or listing agents, landlords, supers on the phone, get them all on the same page, kind of in like an order that's like works for my client.
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm.
I was talking to someone the other day about like how much time do you actually spend actually showing apartments? I'm like, well, it's not as much. There's more. I spend more time kind of building up to the showing than
Chasing keys,
anything.
Hmm.
right?
Chasing keys around, chasing
Yeah.
it's always about chasing the access.
Hmm.
It's always about chasing the access. And even, we just did a deal recently where the unit is tenant occupied, getting the tenant on the right schedule. And like even
Mhm.
as a tenant, you don't want to like let people into your apartment, but hey, if you have a code that you could give one person
Yeah.
and it has like a camera that you could see who's coming in, who's coming out, it's at a certain time period, so you could kind of
Yeah.
like manage that as well. Those things would
Mhm.
probably make, renting apartments even easier, where there are a ton of apartments that don't even hit the market because we can't even get an ad out to advertise them yet because they're tenant occupied.
Mhm. And they don't
And
have keys.
and there's no keys for it.
They
That's
don't
always
have keys, so they're having the tenant show the property,
Hmm.
basically, because they don't have
Yeah.
keys, and they figure they'll just get new keys when another tenant moves in, is
And yeah,
usually.
it's crazy. And some
Yeah.
some landlords won't even try to show while it's still tenant occupied. They're like, not we're just not gonna deal with the hassle. But if you had this, automated system, it would be a lot easier. Be like, hey, can you give us like an hour on Monday? Just be out of the house, give us a code. We'll make sure you can check on the camera. Boom.
Yeah, or in most leases, that we have here and for the properties that we have out of state, we always have, if it's in the lease for at least a 24-hour notice for the tenant,
Yeah.
then we make sure that those rules are followed when showings are set up. And
Yeah,
as long
I
as the
mean, we have
tenant's
that.
getting noticed, they can't refuse a showing.
We have that, but they do.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, yeah.
some tenants, yeah, you don't wanna, maybe be showing it until they're gone. There are those cases.
I've
Mm.
had that as well. I've had, like, the disgruntled tenant that is, it, it helps with my, levels of improvisation, I guess, like, putting on the spot. What do you say to a client when a tenant is just ranting? It's actually pretty fun.
Keep a smile anyway.
Keep a
Mhm.
smile, toss in a quick joke or here or there,
Yeah.
and, try to get out as fast as possible.
Yeah. Unharmed.
Easier said than
Yeah.
done.
It's one of my
Freeway.
biggest fears about, going into empty apartments or even because sometimes, these apartments get rented faster than the updates could like even tell us. And I'm going in and people are like literally moving their like stuff into the apartment as I'm trying to show someone else. Many a times I've
See,
like,
I'm more afraid of getting chased by dogs.
that doesn't, you
I've had
know,
that happen before, and you know what? As long as you're faster than your client, that's all that matters.
Just leave him back there, it's
I'm
That's
okay.
why I
definitely
Push
don't
him
not
do that.
down.
faster than
Push him
any of my
down.
clients. What I can say is I'm usually bigger, so I'm like, all right, I'm fine because I'm not outrunning anyone.
You got the vantage point so you can see their
Exactly. I just like bop him on the head, like, listen, this little
danger.
cunt.
If he runs, I'm running.
You also have really long legs, so you could, like, leap over dogs if they
His RPMs
It's
are way
funny. New
lower.
York, there used to be
Yeah.
like back in the day, there was like stray dogs all over the place. Then all of a sudden they stopped. Back in the day, I've been chased by a few dogs. You don't see it as much anymore, I guess is nice.
Yeah.
But it is kind of funny watching, someone run, screaming, trying to getting chased by a crazy putt.
I
So
mean, I
yeah,
think so.
Oh, it happens every day in my house. Um, okay, so I have another question. Um, are you um are your locks currently on different properties, or are you still like ramping up to get there?
We are actually we're out of testing as of last week. There were a few
Awesome.
things that we wanted to add and work out to make sure the flow was a little bit better. So we are officially onboarding some property management companies next week, and
nice,
we
congrats.
started. Thank you. Yeah, we're starting with the largest companies first, and letting them and of course for you, if you had a property that you wanted to try out a free trial with, we're offering them free trials just to get a taste of it, what it's
Oh,
like to go
how would
keyless,
that work? Like they would
because
have
it's
you
I think it's hard for a lot of us to fathom what it would even be like without keys. And so we're letting people try it on for free. And there's no long-term contract. It's only $12.75 a month for showings and access. So it pays for itself. And but we're offering the free trials. And I can send you a promotion code for your podcast guests,
yeah,
to
that'd be
include it
awesome.
after the show, if you wanted to include it in a link below so that they could try it as well, if
Mhm.
they're, coming over from your show, just to try it on. So, but we're starting with some companies that are teams of, anywhere from 1,500, to 6,000 doors on one company. These are all for scattered sites for residential.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, and
If you if you had your a dream city or a dream property for your product, what would it be?
For,
To
for
like
the
get onboarded with your product.
um I think it's maybe more than the property, it's the culture.
Mm.
It's, um, the people that value buying back their time, even though it pays for itself. The ideal folks are gonna be the ones that get it, that, that value their time enough to know that they can like with what you were saying, if you're able to move so much faster, you can help twice as many
Mhm.
people for $12.75 a month. Um, it just kind of some people, but you will have those people that may still see that as a cost. Maybe it's not for everybody.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
mean, I
I
feel like
think, me personally, I think that more landlords will probably like edge towards your way and your technology. Just because again, keeping costs down, having to have certain supers, like there are supers that won't show any apartments after 3 p.m.,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
which is, outlandish.
I I just think that I just thought of something like in New York, right? We have the Fair Act now where if that the landlord is required to pay the broker fee in certain instances. So if they had automated access and they could just give access directly to prospective tenants, they could completely go around brokers entirely if the renter is not being represented by one.
How
Which
many renters would wanna navigate that on their own?
apparently all of them,
A lot of
according to who
them.
votes.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were saying before, I think there might be there are maybe some bad apples out there. There are some folks that are dishonest that are maybe giving everybody else a bad name. But I think if you are connecting renters ultimately, in a lot of cases, it sounds like in New York, directly with landlords.
Mhm.
I mean, and then the landlords are still, it's every person for themselves still. But I think when tenants realize, well, wait a minute, I can have somebody represent me, the property owner will pay them. So why wouldn't I have somebody representing me that knows what they're doing if it doesn't cost me any money?
Well, in some cases it would cost them money, but yeah.
But they could just negotiate that and bake that into, maybe
Mhm.
whatever the landlord's paying, right? And maybe.
Yeah, in certain instances, yeah, the new law has made everything strange.
But I also think even if we could connect the tenants directly with the landlords don't want to deal with all those tenants or prospective
They
tenants.
definitely don't.
That's what it really boils down to. They don't want to like deal with it, and they don't really want to hire another person to solely deal with it. Um,
No, property managers, like,
yeah,
even
but
if a
property
landlord
managers deal
hires
with
a
the
but they don't
actual
wanna do it.
tenants, they
Yeah, they don't wanna deal with all the
prospective
like,
tenants.
and that's their job. In most of the country, property managers are the ones that are doing the leasing. But here they wanna have nothing to do with it.
I mean, I think
Really?
it's because it's too many
So they're
people.
separate. There's
Mhm.
you're doing leasing separate of property management there? Is that
So,
what
property managers here will only do the lease, they won't actually show they won't deal with perspective, they'll just deal with the actual applications and leases.
they don't wanna chase keys either.
No, they have no interest in they're the ones that are holding the keys.
Oh,
And they're the ones telling you, like, show up with a crisp $20 bill. Make sure
throw
you're
the
here.
trash can, the 3rd trash can on
Like,
5th Street,
seriously.
and that'll be
Yes.
your next clue for,
Mhm.
It's
'Cause
like,
we do have, like there are some, like, owner-operators that then also offer their own services as property management to other owners. It's a shit show, for lack of a better word.
no.
New
And
York,
they
the
could be
wild, wild
representing
east.
they could be controlling, I mean, they could be representing a tenant and then maybe holding the keys on a rental property also and trying to get their tenant and simultaneously if there's no like listing service, right?
Mhm.
They're just a bunch of pocket listings and
Yeah. We have
Which is what's kind of happening now.
yes, 'cause we have, we don't have a listing service for rentals in New York. There's a website that's owned by Zillow that's called StreetEasy that most people put their listings, their ads on, but now because of the new law, they're not posting them, so they're becoming a lot of pocket listings.
because I think you explained that before that what was the rule if
So
the
So
landlord
before
advertised or something, then they had to pay. How did that go?
yeah, so before the law went into effect, renters had to pay the broker fee whether or not they hired the broker.
Okay,
But with the law, basically they're saying if a broker is advertising a property on behalf of a landlord, then the landlord has to pay them the fee, and then it's no fee to the renter.
I see. So that's maybe why they're not all advertising, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
So
exactly. They've taken down a lot of their listings. And then the ones that are advertising um have now raised their rents to include the fee, right?
and what's it like for tenants right now?
I find
I
more I
mean,
find
Yeah.
more tenants are they're a little bit more worried. A little a bit like panic is starting to sit in because they are reaching out to a person. Oh, sorry, this listing is already gone. Yeah, because there's millions of people looking for apartments all at the same time. Um, and then they'll keep doing that, thinking like it's gonna get any better instead of saying, "Hey, this listing is gone. Can you help me?" The minute they say, "Can you help me?" that's like they're hiring us, and then they may have to pay a fee. They're not doing that until they get to the point where it's like, oh, I got to move in like a week.
yeah, I
Damn,
have
I
nowhere to
kind of
live
do need
now.
help. And at
Yeah, because they think that they can do it by themselves. Like, "Oh, I can find these listings online and just reach out to the listing agent and they'll show me and they'll help me through the entire process." No, they don't really care. They'll just open the those are the ones that are just going to open the door and tell you, "Bye."
Yeah.
yeah,
And then in the end, I mean, when they're up against maybe a landlord that's been leasing longer than the other person's been alive, they have
Mhm.
the upper hand because they know what they're doing. And then the other
Mhm.
people, maybe they don't know contracts yet. They don't understand, or they're so desperate at that point. Maybe they're not reading the contract, or they're willing to just, take on the risks if they don't like the verbiage because they just want to find a place. Is that
yeah, and
happening?
you're losing all sense of leverage. Like these tenants are losing actual sense of leverage because in the end of the day, you're gonna give a bunch of leverage to the broker because now you actually need me. So now I don't even have to negotiate a fee with you. It's just gonna be top tier 15% because I know it's this you're in like a rock and a hard place. And then you're also giving the leverage to the landlords that are like, well, we're just going to keep raising these rents and making a tremendous amount of money. And you guys are going to keep paying it. No problem.
But it sounds like the tenants are gonna end up paying for it one way or the
Yep.
other anyway, right?
Yes.
That's what
Yes. But
they're going to
they
learn. Or
didn't
as the kids
believe that
say,
would
they're going to
happen.
fuck around and find out.
Yeah. And they are. They're starting to.
I wish they would have more folks, they meaning, lawmakers, would have invite more property managers in when they're passing this
Well, they
legislation.
do.
So it
They
seems
just
like
don't
their
listen to them.
intent in most cases is to help the renters. But in this case, maybe the best intentions, they're not going to. They're not doing that. And they're not doing it in Denver, Colorado either, and a lot of other places. In Denver, they've changed it to where we can only, when we're screening tenants, we can't require more than 2 times the rental amount and take-home income.
Two?
Ooh.
Like,
So, like, they're
like if your
saying if
rent is
you
$2,000, you only have to make four?
yes, that is the law here now that we have to introduce adverse risk, and we
That's
have
scary.
no, that's not how is that different than somebody walking into a convenience store and saying, "Now you have to reduce all of your prices and sell everything for half and only in this way." How is that any different for landlords?
That's
Yeah.
I was on Reddit and like I told Rachel this and she's like, "What did you do?" I told her I was like, "Hey Rach, I think I just got us banned from Reddit." And it's like, "What?" I'm like, "Well,
Under your name, Rachel.
no,
Just kidding.
yeah.
I like so I I go on these, these chats and you see these like I have a heart. Like I've lived here my entire life. I want people to like live, in a good manner affordably or at least like I want to try to help them. and someone's like, "Oh, I'm getting really desperate, looking for a place, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Hey, you could always like use a broker here if you need some help. Like, please feel free to reach out." That comment got me bad because I'm soliciting now, and I'm like, this is where we've become, like, this is where we're at as like a community where I'm just trying to help people, and
That's
they're
yeah.
putting guidelines to even like allowing us to try to help. When people ask me, "Hey, do you have a deal? Like, do you know of anything?" I can't even give them any information
Yeah.
to protect my company, to protect myself. Like, you kind of have to hold it close to the chest now, and that's not going to get people renting any faster and out of their situation.
Yeah, and with the properties there, the commercial, like we were talking about last time too, Rachel, with the controlling rents. So and a lot of those folks still had those adjustables. So
Uh-huh.
they're saying, okay, now you can't charge what you believe to be fair market value rent or what a tenant, a ready, willing, and able tenant would pay because
Yeah.
we want to make housing affordable at your expense,
Yeah. I mean,
at the landlord's
there's
expense.
just now, was it a week or two ago, the rent guidelines board came back with how much rent stabilized landlords are allowed to increase their rent next year or starting in September. Um, so the rent guidelines board is made up of landlords, brokers, tenant representatives, um, and they look at the data, right? And before they come up with how much they say they can increase the rent or not at all, they say, okay, operating costs for landlords in rent stabilized buildings have gone up X amount. I think this time it was like 6%, 7%, something like that. So we're gonna, take testimony. We're gonna hear from the public, hear from landlords, hear from everybody what they think we should have as the rent increase. So all the renters across New York are saying there should be a rent freeze. Don't increase the
Yeah.
rent. And
It
all the
should be
landlords are
free.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, it should be free. Well,
Wait.
we just there's a mayor that's running on free.
Holy
Um
shit.
and and then the landlords are like, "Hey, can we at least just cover the increase in costs?" Like, what? Insurance has gone up.
Yeah.
Taxes have gone up.
Broker's fees.
Forget about just regular like maintaining, just like the other things that they can't control, right? So they're like, "Hey,
Isn't
your
rehab
own number that you came up with is 6%." And then you know what they finalized on? They said 3% for 1 year and 4.5% on a 2-year lease.
you're losing money.
Yeah,
Materials went up. Materials have gone up more than that.
The person you're hiring to maintain the building wants more money.
Yeah. So how I wonder how so I mean, I think what's gonna have to happen is I mean, you figure out a way to make it the cost another way.
but they're not. So what they're doing is a lot of landlords are warehousing these apartments. They're not advertising them. They're not fixing them. They're not doing anything. They're letting them go into disrepair. Um,
Who's buying
the
them?
No one.
they're selling at steep discounts. I think one made headlines. It sold at a 90% discount.
Oh,
BlackRock, I think.
Only people who could
Anybody that can
afford to lose
afford
money.
anybody that can afford to buy them in bulk and lose money in the short term to make because they think that in the long term it'll be profitable again. But the people that have owned these properties for decades that have been passed down in their families, they're going belly up.
Yep.
I mean, just in the past 2 years, we've lost 5 landlords.
and it's there's less safe, affordable
Yeah, and
housing
these are
now.
rent stabilized. These aren't. We're
Yeah,
not even talking about market
yeah.
rate. We're talking about rent stabilized.
So they inadvertently hindered the very market that they thought they were that they were
Which is what
helping.
they do, right? They did that with the
Because who's gonna
2019 rent
pay?
law, which is what we're talking about. Sort of. They did that with the broker fee law, and then the good cause eviction law that they passed last year or the year before, basically states that um, free market rate apartments cannot increase their rent on renewals more than what they calculate tied to the CPI So as of right now, it's like 8.5%, 8.8%, something like that. So if you live in an apartment, free market rate apartment in New York City, and your landlord wants to increase your rent 9%, you can say, I'm not paying that and not get evicted
And just
and just stay
Just
there.
stay.
wow. Yeah, and then in Colorado also, they've made it more difficult for evictions also. So now it takes, we used to be able to do a 3-day notice when folks were, defaulting or breaching the lease somehow, a 3-day notice to correct or what have you. And now it's a minimum of 10. And then I know that for housing, I believe involving that is set aside for Section 8, that they're even for housing assistance is 90 days now for a notice, just for a notice to correct or that they can enforce it. And I haven't bought any here in Denver for a while, 'cause the cap rates are just so low here. You're lucky to get 5%. So it's just not even worth it here
Well,
now. So I've been
I know that landlords in New York would sing praises for 90-day notice because it takes it takes over 12 months to get somebody evicted in New York.
yeah. Oh, just to even get your order?
Huh?
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You won't get evicted. Probably you have at least a year from the first time you break the lease. Like you breach
really?
the lease, you have at least a year of just chilling. At
Wow.
Well, I don't
least.
know if it's called chilling, but like, you have at least a year before you have to vacate the premises,
Just
which
right. Well, it's chilling. If you're not paying rent, you're chilling.
it's
Mhm.
just going to be
And I
very
mean,
difficult for you on on the back end.
and for a small landlord that's depending on that money, I mean that may be the difference of whether or not they even end up keeping that property is whether or not they run into a tenant like that.
Yeah,
Most people, a lot of smaller landlords, they wouldn't be able to sustain that and keep the water on and 'cause you gotta keep everything on for them, right? I mean, you can't shut anything off. You want to, but you
Well, you had
can't. And you have to keep if it included internet, you have to keep that on, keep everything maintained too, right? So I think, I like you were saying earlier how a lot of tenants were, you thought that maybe they'd rather try to tackle it themselves, but I don't think they just don't realize what all,
no.
um, is, is really involved and how much you're really helping them.
Well, I think this has been an awesome episode,
yeah.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation, Madeline. I don't want to keep you any longer. We were ready or a little bit over our time.
Rach, tell the people, where do they find us?
Oof. Everywhere.
Everywhere.
Instagram, we're at Pinpoint Group. LinkedIn, Pinpoint Group. You can find me, Rachel Fiegler, on LinkedIn. Our website, pinpoint.nyc. There you can get our newsletter, you can get the podcast, you can get our Instagram, you can get everything. And Josh?
And as always, you guys know where to find me. I'll be outside. I'm in these streets making these deals one door at a time. We're knocking them down. And it's going to be easier now because you know what? It's going to be keyless. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
guys, thank you so much for watching, supporting, liking, all that good stuff. Hope to talk soon. It's been a pleasure. Madeline, thank you so much.
Thank you. Peace.